Hello. I wanted to talk about some different aspects of reading tarot cards in a way that maybe it goes a little deeper than most other looks at this deck of cards goes. I don't want to call it advanced tarot because that sounds like it's not really advanced. It's just another perspective of it. Whenever I do my classes, I like to start out by asking people, what's the most important element in a card reading? And usually they'll say it's the tarot cards. Makes sense. And if you look at the last 50 years, the biggest focus has been on the cards. We have hundreds of different decks that we've created in the last 50 years. Before we didn't have that. We just got tarot cards and it was just tarot cards, that was it. So we've really focused a lot on the cards. But really the most important part of a card reading isn't the cards, it's the card spread. And the card spread is elements of your question, it's what we're looking into. Some sources will imply that the card spread and the cards are the same thing. They'll say, position 1, this card means this. Position 2, this card means this. And position 3, this card means this, and so on. But really, the positions are elements of your question. And the cards that are laid into those positions are meant to spark ideas for answers. So they're two separate parts of the whole thing. And I think that's important. And so the way you look at the card spread, if your questions are vague, your answers are going to be vague. And I think really what you want to try to do is have a card spread that's going to cover key elements that are important to your question. And the way I do the Celtic Cross, I feel does that with any question you want to look into. I mean, I've been using the same spread for years, and it can answer any question the way I do it. And I feel it works out very well. And just to go over that real quickly, positions 1 and 2 is the question itself. We look at the question. Positions 3 is what the client is going through at this particular time, the efforts they're making, the things they're trying to do to achieve position 4, which is a quick result, an immediate action they're trying to get. Position 4. Position 5 is an asset the client has. Position 6 is an opportunity that we can look for coming in the future. Position 7 is the way the client views their own question. Position 8 is the timing of the issue. Position 9 is the purpose, the big picture of this, what we're trying to accomplish. And position 10 is a prediction or a wrap-up of some type. Closing thoughts about the reading. And so if I have, let's say, position 5, assets the client has. So you can look at that and say, interpretation would be, I'll lay something in there, like let's say the star card, which is direction, and in position 5 is an asset. Like I say, my client, you have good direction, and you have good ideas about where you want to go with this. That's an asset to you. But I could also look at these positions and say, instead of this is something you have going for you, I could look at each position and say, how do I achieve this position's meaning? So in position 5, an asset, how do I achieve an asset or an advantage of some type to my question? This gives it more construction or constructive ideas for answers that can be useful. Positions 1 and 2. How do I achieve a clearer look at my question, refine the question maybe, or fine-tune it in some way. How do I achieve in position 3? Actions I'm taking right now. How do I achieve insight on more promising actions or better actions than I'm taking right now? Position 4. What I'm trying to achieve right now. How do I achieve clarity on something, trying to achieve something short term that's really going to be beneficial to me? Position 5, how do I achieve assets, advantages that will help me with this? Position 6, how do I achieve the ability to see or create opportunities to my situation that I'm looking into here? Position 7, how do I achieve clarity in my viewpoint of my own question? Position 8, how do I achieve awareness on when to act in my timing of this issue? Or how do I manipulate or adjust the timing in some way to my advantage with this issue? Position 9, the purpose, the big picture. How do I achieve clear awareness of the big picture of what I'm really trying to accomplish here? And position 10, how do I achieve accurate prediction and conclusions that will be helpful to me? So if you look at it that way, it's a lot better than looking at it as this position means this, this position means that. Because really the positions are your question. And the cards that are laid into them are possible answers, or they spark ideas for answers. And today this is called conceptual blending. Conceptual blending is recognized by cognitive science and psychology as an application of thought that sparks ideas on things that you didn't see before you sat down looking at that question. And this is in the applications that they have in place today to purposely think tanks will use and creative consultants will use are specific applications to spark ideas like this. And if you look at those applications that they use, you'll see it's identical to a tarot card reading, which is why I wrote The Essential Tarot, Unlocking the Mystery. I go into the way a card reading really works and why it's so effective. And this is why it's effective. My first book, Genius of the Tarot, I went into how mind mapping and a card reading are very similar. Another creative thinking technique. The only difference between a mind map and a tarot reading is that a mind map is usually illustrated. Tony Buzan, I think is pronounced, he patented the term mind mapping. And it's an illustrated look at a question branching out in different directions. And I say that a tarot reading uses the same train of thought, only it's verbally expressed instead of illustrated. Verbally expressed by the reader, each position branched off into different ideas. And I actually have two creative consultants worldwide known, Michael Michalko, his book Thinker Toys, Cracking Creativity, and he's got another book called Creative Thinkering. He also has a deck of cards that uses the same ideas we use with a tarot reading. And I have Michael Gelb, who wrote How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, another leading creative consultant. Both of these men were nice enough to endorse my book, Genius of the Tarot, Their endorsements are on the back, along with a Kirkus review of high praise, and Mary Greer and Rachel Pollack were nice enough to endorse my book too. But I confirmed my ideas with them and these creative consultants, and they saw right away. They said, "Yeah, you're right. You know, this works. This is why it works." Examples of creative conceptual blending. If you look at a pine cone, I got a pine cone here, and at one time a 12-year-old, I think he was 12 years old, he had a bad accident, a boy, and he became blind, totally blind. And so he was in the backyard with his father's working in the backyard, and he's sitting under a tree, and he's wishing he could read a book again. And he's sitting under this tree, and he picks up a pine cone in his hand, and he's feeling it. And he came up with the idea of touch on these points of a pine cone that could represent words or letters. And because of that, he came up with the idea of Braille. And Braille ended up happening because of associations made with a pine cone to how the blind can read. That's conceptual blending. Same thing we do with a deck of tarot cards when we randomly place a card into an element of a question and make associations with that. How can this card give me ideas to that element of the question? Another example would be the canned goods. An inventor wanted to create a different can opener. He wanted to make a better can opener, and he was in his garden in the backyard, and he picked up a pea pod laying on the ground, and a pea pod has a natural weak seam along the edge of it, runs along the side, and you crack it open and the peas come out. So he thought, looking at his question, well, what's a can opener for? Is to open cans. If I look at that question and think, well, instead of a better can opener, why don't I make a better can? And he came up with the idea of what we have today, the weak seam on a can. Now just pop it open. That's because of a pea pod. So making associations with something we're totally familiar with that has nothing to do with the question is called a random stimulus, and that's what tarot cards do. And so if you're and unconsciously, a lot of readers don't know that that's what they're doing, and that's what they're doing. It forces you to use your imagination, and imagination is the gateway to your intuition. And I feel with tarot cards, the best way to learn the cards is with keywords, keyword meanings for the cards. And that allows you to drift the meaning to something that fits well with your question. In my book, Essential Tarot, I have traditional meanings on the one side, and then over on the other side, I have 20 keywords coming from a main keyword mapped out around the card to show you how a card meaning can drift to other ideas. This works out very well, and I have that for each card in here. I have it mapped out for each card, like that. And people love it. It works out very well. It makes it very easy to come up with ideas for your reading. So keywords. So looking at a card spread and saying, how can I achieve this position's meaning? Gives you a lot more constructive ways of seeing the spread than this card means this, or this position means this. Looking at it as, how can I achieve this? It's a slight twist there to how you perceive the reading itself. And I think that's very helpful. So the magic of the tarot has never been in the cards themselves. It's been in their application of the card spread. Your question broken apart into sections, and a random stimulus in the form of a tarot card placed into each section to spark ideas. Just like a pine cone can spark ideas to a blind person to see how to read again. Anything that's ever been created has been done by taking something we're totally familiar with and adding it to our question and making associations with it, even though it has nothing to do with the question we're looking into. Tarot cards have nothing to do with our questions. They're a deck of ideas with vague meaning and mysterious images that can spark thought in ways that allow us to see new ideas that we didn't see before we sat down with those cards. So, a Celtic cross, the way I do it, number 1 and 2 positions represent the question. So looking at it as, how can I achieve more clarity in my question with these 2 cards here? What kind of insight does it give me, these cards? Number 3 position, the actions I'm taking right now to find immediate results. How can I achieve insight into more effective actions to take? Or confirmation of the actions I'm taking right now are the right things to do. Number 4 position, the immediate result I'm looking for. How can I achieve effective immediate results that will be something that will be significant and not just a waste of time? Number 5 position, an asset the client has. How can I, or an asset the client could attain, how can I achieve an asset that will help me with this question or goal I'm looking into? How can I get it to be what kind of an advantage can I find here in putting a tarot card in that position allows me to, or any of these positions allows me to see that. Number 6 position, the opportunity that's coming. How can I achieve opportunities? Or how can I see them more clearly when they're there and not miss them? What signs should I be looking for? Number 7, my view of my own question. How can I see my question clearly, with the most clearest way of seeing it, without any illusion around it? Number 8, the timing. How can I adjust my timing in some way, or understand the timing that should be there, the right time to act on this question? How do I attain that knowledge or that insight to know when to act? Number 9, the purpose of my whole question, the big picture. How do I achieve real clarity into what I'm really looking for? And number 10, a prediction. How can I see an accurate prediction or a wrap-up of the question? How can I see things that are coming and what kind of an outcome I can get if I look into these other aspects and achieve them? I'll get this here, my prediction. So anyway, it's a nice way to look at it. And like I say, one of the things I really teach, I really try to come across with is the cards are there to spark ideas, but what's really important is the elements of your question in a card spread. And if you have a card spread that will be beneficial to any question asked, you have a good card spread. And I've covered that in both of my books here, Genius of the Tarot and The Essential Tarot, Unlocking the Mystery. My Celtic Cross is in both of those, and it goes over in detail how to do that. So I hope you like this, and I hope it gives you some ideas. And thanks for watching. Bye.